you know what feels good for you. You know where your body should be. You know what's best for you. And I think that we let so many things come in and muddy that up for us and distract us from the true and simple point of this is for me.
This is Running for Real, the podcast for runners who know that for every runner's high, there are just as many lows. All those just missed PRs, easy runs that feel hard, injury blues, and more. Each week, we'll talk to running, health, and wellness experts about their highs, lows, and best advice to build our confidence. Running for Real is about being honest, being brave, and most of all, not feeling alone. And now here's our host, who wonders why clothing brands make their labels so itchy, Tina Muir.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 77 of Running for Real. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is making me so happy that you are listening and downloading and hopefully subscribing. Now, last week we had Anne Ordain on the show, who was the first female professional runner, and she told her absolutely incredible story about her journey from being unable to walk in a correct manner, to spending 6 months in plaster to literally train her feet how to move. And from there, she became the best in the world, and her story was inspirational. If you haven't already heard it, be sure to go back and listen, or you could just subscribe to the Running for Real podcast through your favorite podcast player, including Spotify, and that episode will be easy to find from there. Now, if you haven't already signed up to support me through my Patreon page, I'd really appreciate your support, especially if you've been a fan of this podcast for a while. Your contribution will mean I can continue bringing you these for a long time. And if you're a bit confused about what that is, I'll tell you more about Patreon later in the episode. Now, today I'm excited to have another female role model on the show, one with a very different story to last week. But I love what she's doing for the running world, particularly when it comes to proving that no one is any less of a runner because of their size, nor do you have to lose weight to fit into a mold. Now, Candice Huffine is here to talk about the attitude she's had to face in the modelling industry as a curvy model, but also about how she fell in love with running. Candice is fun, smart, and real, which we love. Are you ready to meet her? Well, let's thank Body Health and Hoka, and we'll be right to the episode. Thank you to Body Health for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. Perfect Amino has been supporting me in my training for years now, and I need it even more now I'm trying to get back into running. I forgot how sore you get when you start running again, but at least I know I have something in my corner to help me recover. Remember, coupon code TINA10 will get you 10% off at bodyhealth.com. This podcast is sponsored by Hoka One One. Hoka One One is a running shoe unlike any other, if you haven't already noticed. And you, my friend, should give their newest release, the Bondi 6, a try. Run for any distance with a soft, plush ride. The Bondi 6 is the sweetest cushion. Candice, thank you so much for joining me today on the Running for Real podcast. I am really excited to get this conversation going. Really excited that Jessie, our mutual friend, reached out to talk, to introduce us, and looking forward to having a great conversation. So thanks for being here today.
Me too. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Well,
I'm excited to get real.
It is. This is very real. And as you know, as you're now a runner, well, I guess now a runner, you've been a runner for a good few years now, but we do end up having poop conversations sometimes, so that's how real this can get. But hopefully we won't go down that road. We'll see.
I actually had that conversation even before I became a runner. It's just like it's like a funny, not even funny. It's just like a human conversation.
Yep. Then you are very much a running for real person. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I want to start with just what you do in general. Now, for those who don't know, you are a fashion model. You've been in Vogue. You've been in Glamour. Many other places to be, and just thinking about it from kind of the angle that you are coming, if you could tell my audience, what made you decide you wanted to go into modeling, how did that come about, and where have you ended up today?
So I've been modeling a really long time, almost 18 years. So I've actually been modeling more than half my life, I think. I think I decided that I realized that math the other day. But so I just wanted to always be one. Like that was just my dream as a little girl. Like, sometimes you dream to be like a veterinarian or a doctor or something. And I just really wanted to be a model. It's so crazy. And like,
is it someone you looked up to that brought that on, or where did that come from?
Well, I used to do beauty pageants. And so I felt like I was in that world already. I kind of always thought that I was a model. Turns out those are two completely different worlds. But I just enjoyed being in the spotlight. I liked to play dress up. I thought that's what modeling was. Like, you just wear pretty dresses, you take photos, and I wanted to do that for the rest of my life. So I got an opportunity when I was 15. I went up to New York to go seek out some modeling agencies
At 15?
At 15,
okay,
yeah,
wow. To
get a contract and to start modeling so that I could be in 17 magazine and I could be in the Sears catalog. These are my goals. And at the time, I guess I could just abbreviate the story, I guess, a little. But at the time, I had no idea that I wasn't really right to be a model. Like, I just had it in my head that it's not because I felt like I was the most beautiful girl in the world or something, but I was like, I'm pretty sure I can do this. Like, I look at these magazines on a regular basis and I could be in there and I want to be in there. And then so when I got to New York, I was met with a lot of rejection because I wasn't the ideal model size, which was completely unbeknownst to me that there was some perfect body that you had to be.
Did they say those words to you? Like, how did they word that?
Oh, they say, we love you. We're very interested in you. You would have to lose about 15 to 20 pounds.
So literally saying that to you as a 15-year-old girl?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, well, I can't get a contract until I do that. And then so I would leave one agency with that information and then go to the next agency. And sometimes they wouldn't even see you at all. They would just send your pictures back to you while you waited in the waiting room. And it was just so harsh. And I was just devastated. And there was a 2-day long trip and I wanted to pull out after the first day and go back home. And my mom made me stay. And she's like, you're already there. My grandmother was with me. She's like, you're already there. We already have these appointments. Just see it through. And on the final appointment on the second day, I was just so over it. I remember wearing just sneakers and board shorts and just didn't eat. All the other days the first day I got super dressed up and glam. And then the next day I was like, ugh, I cannot go through this again. I'm just being dragged here basically. And then I got an opportunity to be a plus size model from an agency who was the only agency at the time who had a plus size division, which basically meant that I could just be the size that I was or be any size. That obviously wasn't 34, 24, 34, I think was the model measurements, the ideal model measurements to be the very, very slim models. And so it sounded like a perfect deal to me. I was like, I didn't realize that there was another division or another category, but if you're telling me that my dream can come true, I can have a contract, I can be a model and be in magazines, then it sounds amazing to me. So fast forward to 18 years later, I've been in this industry, working very successfully and with the title that I received or with going into that division, which probably wasn't right for me in the beginning because I was so young and I was quite small as well. And it's just was sort of like a place that they put anyone who wasn't these perfect measurements. Mm-hmm. But then I grew and I turned into a woman and I got more curves and my body changed as a woman's body does anyway. So it was actually a really perfect stress-free home for me to be in and where I could really just thrive and love my body in all shapes and forms and throughout the years. And with it could share that message as well. And there was a platform to share that message with other women. And now standing here today, 18 years later, I feel like myself and the other, plus models or curvy models in the industry really took their title so much more, not seriously or universally. So instead of just taking a photo and selling some jeans, everything is laced with another purpose really. And that's just to make women feel really great about who they are and comfortable in their body. So everything is meant to be absolutely. I'm just I was never meant to lose the 15 pounds they asked me because I was meant to be here in order to sort of just blend these industries and just normalize a woman's body so that it doesn't have to be a huge topic of conversation and she doesn't always have to live her life feeling like she's just meant to lose weight every waking hour of the day.
Was there any part of you that was tempted when they first said that to you?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I just knew it was impossible. I was 15 years old. I was athletic. I was playing lacrosse. I was a cheerleader. I was an active young lady. And I already thought that I was like as small as I should have been for as tall as I was. And I mean, I was wearing a size 6 clothing. I was like, I just didn't see how that was going to be possible for me. And so I didn't even want to try because I knew I'd be doing it the wrong way, or a way that was not supposed to be the road that I take.
And what about your parents, maybe your mother in particular, or you mentioned your grandma? Did either of them kind of instill that in you growing up? That it just seems most 15-year-olds to me, even if they were, slim, would have still had that kind of...
Oh yeah, to like do whatever they want to get this contract that they want so badly. I know it's crazy because like I always say, like I didn't have a plan B. I wanted this so badly. It was my only dream, but yet I still was like, I'll pass. I'm not really going to go that far.
Yeah.
Which is a great thing because I don't know what story I'd be telling today if I did sort of bend for what was expected of me. But my mom and my grandma my mom especially were just really, I always say that it all did really start with how she sort of how she presented herself in our household, or like the way that she felt with her body. Because when we all are looking to we all don't realize how much the parents, or our moms particularly, affect how we see our own bodies, our own acceptance with our bodies, or even just the little keywords that they could say sometimes. But my mom was just always chill. It wasn't a really huge topic of conversation. Her body changed a lot over my lifetime. She was like a size 4 when I was a child, and then kind of went up and down from there. But then when I was 12, she had my little brother, and then she went to a size 14, and then went from like a 10 to a 14 in that period of time. Like she kind of was up, down, all around, and she always has been. And you kind of just go with the flow. Your body changes, things happen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And they happen for great reasons. I mean, she had her son, and it just wasn't a stressful, like, okay, well now I have to go on crash diets. Now I have to do that. Oh my gosh, I feel so disgusting. It was just not a negative space when it came to body. And both of my parents are from the South. And so we had very hearty meals on a regular basis. And food is something that we, treat as like an activity. It's like kind of like how we all come together, and cooking and eating is like an event and a happy event. So I don't know. It just kind of, everything was just really comfortable. It's like not eating was not an option, and your body was going to change. And as long as you felt good and, we're healthy, and it's just going to do what it's going to do. And so I don't know. It just felt very, very comfortable for when the time came for my body to actually be changing as well.
That's so good.
Yeah. So I do look back and I'm like, okay, well, those were things I didn't even realize were happening that were actually extremely beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason I wanted to bring that up, because, many people listening may have kids of their own. I myself have a 6-month-old daughter. So thinking about, her growing up in the world, and other people listening, what they can do to make sure that their daughters never feel maybe the way they felt, or maybe the pressure that they've experienced. So I wanted you to explain that, because maybe, maybe that was a key in why you had that kind of confidence in who you were. Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't think about it at the time. Of course, you're not like, wow, my mom is so like just body positive and neutral, and like, wow, this is so great. You just don't realize. But then, looking back, there are things, because there's certain things that she does now where I feel like I now have to be who she was for me then, because she'll be like, you know what, I don't want to be in this photo. I feel gross today. I don't look great. And I'm like, you look beautiful. And you always get mad if you're not in the photo. So you're going to regret that. Make sure you get in there. And I just think it's like the little quips are like our little sentences here and there that really stick and sting. And it seems like a very nonchalant or like a defense mechanism for a woman who maybe isn't totally, 100% in where her body is at the moment, or something, for us to like self-deprecate and sort of just, I don't know, like just make light of this elephant in the room kind of.
Yeah.
But it's detrimental to all parties involved. Like we shouldn't speak about ourselves that way. Yeah. And there is always someone listening, and it will attach itself, and it could create a habit for them as well.
Absolutely.
So just be mindful of that.
Yeah, and something that I've been kind of saying to myself recently, again, having this daughter, my sister and I both love to look at home videos, from when we were kids, and seeing our grandparents, because, they're no longer with us, and that's all we have of them. But thinking about, when I'm taking little video clips now for her to watch someday, what if that person isn't around anymore? At least she's got something to see that person, and she's not going to think, oh, look at them, they've got no makeup on, or look at them, they obviously are overweight. She's going to be thinking, oh, there's my grandma, or there's my aunt, or whatever it is. So that's one thing I like to remind people is that, for the person watching it, they're not watching it to criticize you. They're watching it because they love you and they want to see you and remember you. So
for sure. We're so hard on women are so hard on themselves sometimes, I feel like, and they notice things that no one notices, no one would think of. And we just drill it into our own heads over and over. Like the things we say, we wouldn't even say to our worst enemy, but it's so natural and easy to just say to yourself. And we've got to break that cycle for sure.
So true. So true. And that's exactly why, when I said to you before we started, that's exactly what I'm always preaching to everyone. And I do think the guys have to deal with it too. I know, especially in the runner world, there is a lot of pressure, for men to kind of look a certain way as well. Mario Frioli, who I'm not sure if you know him, has the podcast, The Morning Shakeout. He talked about, having his eating disorder, trying to feel like he looked more like a runner. But I do think guys go through it too. But let's talk about, a lot of runners listening may feel or have felt at some point like they aren't real runners. They don't look like real runners. You mentioned it, briefly earlier. Did you kind of experience that in the modeling world from other models while you were out there, kind of them looking at you thinking, well, you're not a real model? Or was it kind of you were kept very much away from everyone else, or their opinion just didn't matter to you?
No, there would be times in the past where, when you all arrive on set that day, people, or like if you're checking in at the front desk of the studio or something, they're a bit like, are you hair and makeup? Are you here? Are you the stylist? Are you like, you're everybody but the actual model? And you're like, come on. Like, this is so not because I feel like you need to think that I'm a model because I'm the most beautiful person in the room. It's not that, but it's just like, expand your own horizons. Like, models can look different. And that was, it was just a reteaching experience for the entire industry. Once the plus market started to get really big and designers were extending their sizing and brands were using diverse casting, and, just a general, the doors of inclusivity were opening, and it was becoming such a hot topic of conversation in really, expressing how important it was that everyone feel represented. So it's expected that your models should look different when they arrive on set. But no, there was times years ago where it's like, they thought that you were everybody but the actual girl who was supposed to be there in the limelight. I never got no weird experiences or vibes or anything from other models. Everyone's always been I do feel very, very lucky. Everyone's been extremely accepting, welcoming, friendly. I have nothing but nice things to say about all my experiences in this industry. I think girls, no matter their size, whether they're a 0 or 14 or whoever, like, just being around women who are just comfortable with themselves, I think, is an exciting thing. So
you would say they're comfortable with themselves, though, or would you say they're very critical and want to be better?
Well, I think that all sizes have enjoyed seeing that there's a place for everyone. Okay. And I would say that I am under the impression, I personally think it must be nice and maybe feels like a weight off their shoulders to maybe feel like they could kind of like release the reins a little and be where that maybe it's most natural for their body to be, and they're still going to be successful. Okay. I think seeing that there is an opportunity for everyone to be successful. Everyone, I think, has probably been really positive when it comes to everyone's bodies being where they should be and not forced to a place where they are not meant to be. Mm-hmm. That's just an assumption I'm making. I don't know. I've not spoken to anyone that has a size 0 to whatever, but I would say that that's just the feeling that I get. Like, girls are excited to work. All girls of all sizes are excited to work together. It's not like a skinny girl is like, oh my gosh, I do not want to take this photo with this curvy girl. It's just,
yeah.
I just think that there's a air of celebration around the times that we're in right now as well. I think for women, just feeling, really strong and connected to each other. And so I think we're not going to wave fingers at each other's bodies for sure. So that is now it's just up to us to not do that for ourselves, I think.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you so much for explaining that. And just one more thing on that topic. You mentioned very early on about when you were a 15-year-old girl going into the industry, you talked about what you thought modeling was.
Yeah.
So tell us what it is. In our heads, I think most of us have this cutthroat, very, very critical, very harsh environment. Is it like that?
I mean, yes and no. I think more so in the past when it was less inclusive, for sure. But I mean, there's things that are harsh that are just semi-normal, that it just depends on how you take it. Like sometimes you could just lose the job because they want a blonde and not a brunette. I mean, you cannot take that personally. You can't win it all. It's not like, that's not a dig to who you are and your character. That's just like, they really needed a blonde for this vision. So I had to let that go a long time ago, that it was like all about like me not being the best. And I would say that, I mean, I think people have this like idea from movies and stuff about what modeling is. And it's like this super glamorous party where I've had moms say to me, like, I'm really nervous for my daughter to get in the modeling world. I'm like, oh my goodness, we're like almost the most boring industry. It's not what you think it is. It is a job. It's an actual job. I mean, it's like, it's not an everyday 9 to 5, but when you're on set, it's a 9 to 5 job, and everyone is there on a mission to, elevate a brand, sell clothing. Trust me, it's fun, and I meet new people every day, and I travel a lot. But no, it's a very serious industry. Yeah. And a very healthy one, actually, to just go back on that like party lifestyle that was always portrayed. I mean, that's on set is the place I get all my wellness tips, basically, like what people are doing for workouts, what's the newest like skincare something, what's the newest powder to add to the smoothie, and the whole 9 yards. So it's like it's a really, it's my family basically for a long time. Well,
that is so good to hear, because like you said, it is kind of, I think most of us do have that image in our heads of the movies, and then it's not really helped by the fact that, even you talked earlier about modeling having all kinds of sizes and all kinds of shapes and people not looking, exactly like they do when they turn up. But I think movies and TV shows, especially over here in the US, I mean, in England, you mentioned you had some English friends. A lot of the TV shows have like normal looking people with maybe a tiny bit of makeup and maybe, all sizes. Whereas over here in the US, a lot of the movies and TV shows, everyone looks exactly the same, has the same hairstyle, the same everything.
It's
and I think that is why we end up thinking that way. But I'm glad you kind of broke some of those, expectations and allowed us to see that maybe it isn't quite as bad as we thought. And then, I think the other side of things we see is things like Honey Boo Boo. And
oh my gosh, I know.
End. So it's good to know there is a middle ground here.
Because I used to do pageants, so I always have to explain that's not what it was when I did pageant. Because I did pageants starting from when I was 2 years old, and so everyone just thinks I was Honey Boo Boo, and I'm like, it's not how it was. Then I promise you, I didn't wear fake teeth, I didn't tan, I literally just played dress up. Yeah. Okay. It's just a different time.
And that's a little girl's dream, really.
Exactly. That's why I ended up here too. I still wanted to do that.
Well, that's so cool. Thank you.
I still do that actually.
Yeah, life definitely. That's great. Okay, let's talk about running, as this is a running podcast.
Yes.
And we're over 20 minutes in, not even mention the word running. You did start running in 2015. Your husband, Matt, suggested a half marathon to you. Why did he suggest that to you in the first place? And what were your first thoughts when he said that to you?
Okay, so he dared me because at the end of every year we sit down and we reflect. I mean, yes, it sounds like it's setting resolutions, but I just don't like to call them that because it just feels like a lot of pressure, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And then we know how that drill goes, and then set them, you forget them, you fail, whatever. And then it's just this endless cycle. You feel bad about
yourself. Yeah,
exactly. And I'm like, I'm not going down that road at all. So anyway, we were in Spain. I was on a job and he came with me. It was the end of the year. So we made a little vacation out of it, and we were having brunch. We were having margaritas, and we just started talking about how great the year had been in the past year that we were leaving behind, how great it had been, and what we want to do differently in the new year, and what to expect, what our goals are, and just having like a really light conversation. And I was saying, I immediately always go to career goals. So for the next year, I want these things. And then I even like get silly and I'm like, I throw in a hobby that I want, like maybe I'll finally pick that guitar back up again. And then I go really crazy and I'm like, and then maybe I want to start wearing more color. They're just really like kind of surface level, like, oh, these are the things I'm just dreaming about. And then he threw in, I think you should run a half marathon. And it was like the record, like scratched and stopped. I'm like, we were just having light fun. And now you're suggesting this really major thing. Like, ugh, like get out of here with that. It's too serious. So I don't know. I just like laughed and was like, impossible. No way. I mean, he knows that I didn't run. He sees me every day. So I just thought it was a really unfair dare and request. So I just laughed it off. And then he explained a little bit more and he was really passionate about it. And he's like, hear me out. I want you to just hear why I think this would be really good for you. And he's like,
he runs himself, right?
Yeah. He had been running for 2 years before that point. And so I mean, that's the thing about this whole experience is that it was bound to happen eventually, I guess. And I just didn't know how it would present itself because I mean, I saw his life transform when he started running and how he became a different person and just all around happier, more focused, obviously looked amazing. And it was just something that he needed in his life that made him a better person that he loved. And I still would easily just wave him goodbye. Like there was never a point where I was like, you know what, gosh, this is doing such amazing things for you. I think I'll join you. It was something, there was such a barrier for me for some reason that I just happily just let him go do his thing. And I didn't combine these lifestyles whatsoever. So, I don't know, something in the dare, something in the drink. I don't know what it was, but he was like, I want you to just think about it. He's like, if you set this goal for yourself and actually stick to it, I think there will be things along the way that fall into place that you want, that you didn't realize you could get until you set this goal. And I was like, you really are making zero sense to me. But we started to make some phone calls and I reached out to a friend to see if he would coach me. And we started to put all these, all the wheels in motion. And then I kind of just on a whim, like announced that I was doing it. And because I felt like I had to make myself accountable, it wasn't something I could do privately because I mean, how many times have we like gone to the gym or something solo to start doing some workout? We realize nobody knows what we're doing or if we're doing it or if we're not. And I'm bored and I want to leave and cut this short. And you do, you know, and I know me and that's what I would do. So I was like, I need to make this kind of a thing or else I'll just quit. And that's because that's been my experience in the past. And so, so I signed up for the New York City half marathon and I started training right at the beginning of the new year.
Mm-hmm. And so the New York City half, was that, I'm guessing, November with the marathon, or was that another time?
No, it's in March of, it's March of every year at the middle of March.
So you didn't have long to prepare for it then?
No, I did not.
Okay, so how did that go?
It was, great. It was amazing. There was obviously things I could have done differently. And I've like worked for the past 2 years to always change and use that as a benchmark. But for example, for that first race, because I was so clueless, I never trained past 8 miles in my run. And so in the actual race, once I passed the mile marker 8, I really kind of freaked out mentally. And that's where they always say it's mind over matter and it's a mental game. And you're always like, I don't understand how it's a mental game if it's my legs that are doing all the work. I can really feel everything. I don't know how my mind's going to change that, but it really is though, it really comes into play at some times where you don't expect it. So once I saw 8 come and go and pass, I started to freak out because I felt like, well, I've never done this before. I don't know what to expect. I can't, I'm freaking out. Everything hurts. And I think I just like psyched myself completely out basically after that point. So I just learned, that was my first race ever. That was, I worked very hard to get to that point and there wasn't more I could have done then, I guess, in that time frame, but it's sort of, and I guess, if there's a lot of runners that are listening to this podcast, everyone can attest to the fact that you are sometimes in complete misery and you're like, I hate this. Why did I do this? I'm never doing this again. And as soon as you cross the finish line, you're like, all right, well, what's my next one?
Yeah.
So I learned that I'm obviously very susceptible to a dare, which I never realized because I will just say yes. And then I'm also very competitive with myself, because as soon as I crossed that finish line, I was ready to do it again, because I knew that there are things that I could do differently, and I wanted to run a stronger race.
And so what did you notice during the training itself? Did you is that when it clicked in of what you noticed with Matt and how he had changed?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Absolutely. I was like, holy shit, this is exactly what I needed. And so I try to like break this story down in different ways, when I'm like doing an Instagram post or something like that. But I always like describe it back to like BC, like or BR before running, Candice before running. And that I was a very like tightly wound person. I was very easily stressed out. I mean, my job is stressful. I know it sounds really fun. I was like saying that I play dress up and whatever, but I'm always gone. I'm always on the road. I'm always flying. I never know where I'm going to be next. And the days are long, and you're often in different time zones, and it's crazy. And so I lived kind of stressed out and didn't ever give myself any time for myself, basically. To do anything that made me feel good. I think that I just, as a supplement or as like a celebration, if I had time off, or if I wanted to see my girlfriends and I wanted to, I have a weekend at home finally, I would fill that time with like long boozy brunches and nights out and all the things that don't make you feel great. And adding in any kind of fitness as a balance was just not ever something I thought of. And so I was like, I was stressed. I was angry. I was just like, I don't know, maybe not the most pleasant person. And I immediately found that once I added this into my lifestyle, once I added running in, it was night and day. And suddenly I was just lighter. I was happier, lighter. I felt more creative. I suddenly on these runs, I would come back with all these incredible ideas that I just never even gave myself time to just have a clear mind with. I think a forced shutdown in general, where it's like, you can't be writing emails, you can't be connected necessarily. You're just kind of like listening to your favorite music and you're outside, was something I obviously never did before. And it almost was meditative for me. And how would I have known that would bring me all of those things? And I was looking for in other places. So yeah, I mean, once I started, and especially once you get a little taste of how you're progressing, even though I always say to other women, it's like, you have to just be slow and be kind to yourself in the process, because you're never going to just leave the door and start running for miles and miles. And it's all going to be great and fun and and painless and you're going to love it. Like, you have to just know it's going to be a slow process, but you are going to see it build and you're going to see the progress as well. And that's what pumps you up too. And suddenly there's a sense of pride that you gain that, you don't often give yourself credit for. I mean, I think that we make these really big goals in our life about like what the future looks like, our 5-year plans, houses, careers, kids, the whole 9 yards. And we often don't set the goals and achieve like the small term goals that make us feel so great about ourselves, like really, really accomplished and proud. And that's what I was learning very quickly that running was doing for me. It's that I had these little goals among the bigger goals to get to. And when I accomplished them, I could see that I was becoming stronger. I could see that I was becoming better. And so, I mean, that is the driving factor. I think we all know, and that's why we keep going back for more. But really the whole thing, the most enlightening part about becoming a runner was really what it did for me mentally, and physically is what it is. It's a whole other thing. I mean, my body didn't change. It just got stronger. But like, I always encourage women, they've got to run for one, of course, for themselves, but I just want to also encourage them to do it for just how you end up feeling about yourself. It's not how you end up looking. It's really how you end up feeling. And that part's quite indescribable.
Yeah. And I would imagine you took some of that to your shoots as well, that you had kind of a confidence in yourself. Like, let's say you'd managed to do a run before you got up and you got up early, did your run, did a shoot, and you're kind of feeling good. Like, I've accomplished something. You've got this confidence. You've got this, my body looks toned. And I'm sure that kind of, transferred over to that and made you feel good about, other areas of your life as well, and made you look at things otherwise. So Really cool to hear.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So then let's talk about, what did you notice about running clothes? Obviously, we are bringing you on the show today, partly to talk about something to do with running clothes, which we will talk about in a minute. But, even myself, going from an elite professional runner to, I don't know how much of you know of my story, Candice, probably not much, but going to, gaining 20 pounds, getting pregnant, going through that whole thing, having a baby, all that stuff, my body has fluctuated significantly. And I noticed once I did gain that weight, physically the clothes didn't fit me very well. The shape was awkward, particularly in the chest area. What did you notice about running clothes coming into the industry? Like you mentioned, as if you want to call it a plus model, I know you're not keen on the phrasing there, but what did you notice with regards to running clothes themselves?
I just noticed that they were annoying. They were so annoying. And I just felt like, so what baffled me the most is like, my goodness, like it's already hard enough to get out here and do this. So like I've taken on this dare. I'm really setting myself up for this goal, and I've got to focus and I need to train. And whether that's your story or not, even if you're like, okay, you know what, I'm going to start cycling more often, or I'm going to go to this boxing class. Like even just getting yourself out the door sometimes is the biggest mission, right? Because you're like, it's something new. It's something a little bit scary. And that's step one. And then you get there and all you're doing is messing with your clothes. It's the most unnecessary, obnoxious, and frustrating thing. And so for me, when I started training and I was putting in these miles, I cannot even tell you how many times I turned around and had to cut the run short based on fashion, based on my actual clothing. The bra was digging in, the bra was cutting me, the bra hurt. The socks were falling down in the shoe. That's a wrap. The pants were falling down, which you would never know because, even if you jumped around in the dressing room while you tried them on, they're not going to slide the same way until you're actually out there running. And by that point, too late. You can't return them. Now you're, a few miles from home and stuck with these like pants that won't stay up that you constantly have to mess with. And it was just like, my God, this is hard enough as it is. I really would love to just focus on this run without tugging at stuff. And so I always just found that to be the most frustrating, not to mention a lot of the stores, a lot of the athletic brands in store would only carry up to a size large, and I need the next size up. And that would take me to online. And online had more options, but then I noticed that the higher you went in size, or depending on the size that you needed, your options dwindled significantly. The way that you had to sort of search around to even find them in the first place, it was like a treasure hunt. And I just found the whole thing to be surprising, but only because I wasn't in this industry before, let's say. I wasn't in the wellness, athletic, sport field. I was like kind of in my fashion bubble. And I was just, as soon as I really immersed myself and this became my lifestyle, and, I was like seeking the tools to get me from point A to point B and like getting all the gear and getting ready. I was like, my goodness, this is exactly the same stuff we deal with over in the other world, like over in fashion world. The representation is crap of the woman. Like there's only one type of body that's represented. No wonder I was so scared to start running. The clothing options are slim and grim and complicated to find. And there's just so many things that make that woman feel a woman who's, above the size large, who can't just go buy a pair of leggings like everyone else in the store. It just makes her feel like, well, what's the point? Nobody wants me to be wearing this, and I guess I can't actually go achieve my greatest goal because no one thinks I can. Like, look, they obviously didn't make the stuff for me. And it's just so disheartening and unnecessary. And I've been in that world for almost 2 decades. I've watched, clothes. The battle for clothing has been endless when it comes to fashion, for dressing a curvy woman and proving that she loves fashion, looks great in like modern trendy fashion, and has money to spend on it, and wants to, that she's a confident woman and wants to show that. And that's something I've been battling forever in my career. And then here we are on the other side of things. And all I wanted to do was go run this first half marathon. And then suddenly I was like, wait a second, there might be a bigger task at hand here.
Yeah. And I am very excited to say that you decided to do something about this, disparity between someone going out there, maybe, like you said, for the first time, wanting to try and achieve something to change their life and being unable to because, as you mentioned, the products, physically don't fit or, just not working very well. I even, on my long run yesterday, I swear I went out the door. I should have put the stuff for anti-chafing on. Mm-hmm. I didn't. I was about 30 minutes into my hour 40 long run and I was like, uh-oh. Like, that feeling, you're like, oh God, the chafing's already started. And I probably pulled my shorts down over 50 times within the next hour. And it was just, I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, why am I still dealing with this?
And once you start thinking about it, you cannot unthink it. And it's like, it almost gets like dramatized. It's like, it becomes bigger and like, oh, it's just horrible, horrible.
So tell us what you ended up doing. You decided to make your own brand, Day One.
I did.
So tell us about that.
Okay. So Day One just launched. So it's Day One, WON. I realize that I have to explain that one quite a bit just so that that's my fault for, for trying to like put a spin on the old traditional wording. But, so Day One was launched in October of 2017. It had been conceptualized in the year prior. So actually I ran the Boston and New York City Marathon in a pair of prototype leggings. Well, by November we were officially launched. So those leggings were for sale, but I ran Boston in a pair of prototypes just to make sure that I was actually solving a problem instead of perpetuating a mass market of issues. Like I didn't want to add to what we already had. I wanted to make sure that there was a way to solve this problem. And so I designed this brand. Really just my idea was stuff that I wanted, obviously a passion of things that I would want to fill with my closet with. So just sort of cool items that I felt like you would run a race in, but then you would be happy like wearing to brunch, and high performance quality. Like I needed it to obviously stand up in a long race, a test of time. And I think the biggest key factor that was most important for me was that it was going to be a fully inclusive size range, size 0 to 32, the same collection, same range, same everything, same availability, same shopping experience. And it was really a time for me to finally do what I had been wishing for as a consumer and hoping for and dreaming that was possible. And all this time I've been kind of banging my head against the wall, wondering why other brands were not doing this. And I was thinking, well, maybe it is really hard to do, or maybe it's impossible, or maybe there's a reason why it's always been so separate. But then I had the opportunity to make it like truly, truly inclusive. And no, there is no reason why it should be separate. There's just no, I realized quickly, I mean, you put in the time and the work to make, to do the fittings and make sure everything works for all sizes. And then you sell it. Like, I don't understand why we've been so exclusive in the past or why things have been so separate. But I mean, not that I've got I'm not trying to say I have it all figured out and I saw, look at me, I'm the best, but it's like, this can be a way more lovely experience.
Yeah.
And I hope that I'm adding, I think that I'm adding very positively to the market and hopefully like eliminating any kind of like stress or any kind of, exclusion too for this woman. Like of course you're not feeling very motivated to like get out and do anything when you feel like you're not even being properly served in the first place. So, that was the whole idea behind the brand name Day One, is that I just want to encourage any woman to just go out and do for herself in a day what makes her feel victorious or feel like she crushed it or feel her best self, so that she can sit at the end of the day and go, that was one. Like, this was a Day One. I feel amazing. And it can be anything. I don't even want it, I don't even want our brand to feel like performance sport alienating either. Like, if she wants to put on these leggings and like read her favorite book or go play with the kids or whatever, I want her to do anything that makes her feel happy. And I just feel like as a consumer in the past, I feel like I've been, there's like, you feel like things are for a certain kind of person for a certain kind of activity. And and, oh, well, I'm not really, I don't relate to that because look how tiny she is and how great at yoga she is. And then suddenly you're like, oh, wow, so that brand's not for me. And I just want it to just be a really positive place for everybody, for whatever it is they choose to do.
Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad that you did. Absolutely, gorgeous stuff. I definitely encourage people to go check it out online. We will tell you more about how you can find that towards the end. But just, you mentioned about it not being maybe as complicated as you first thought. But logistically, how do you do that, creating sizes 0 to 32? If it is really that, simple to be able to create all these sizes, why don't other brands do the same? Why do they stop at, small, medium, large kind of sizing?
I mean, I think in the past, they assumed that woman didn't want anyone past a certain size, wasn't working out. I mean, I think that this is the same battle that we always had in fashion world as well, is that after her body is a certain size, she doesn't want fashion because she's not comfortable with her body, and that she's obviously working to make it smaller. And so this is a temporary pit stop for her. And she's really, no one really lives at this size permanently. And I think it's just years on years of misconceptions that, we're all doing a really great job at dispelling and changing. I think now, more than ever with social presence and even conversations like this and podcasts and a lot of women coming together to share their voices, I think affects change much quicker now. So I think that being able to dispel these myths of like who this woman is has made it so that these brands will start to diversify their size range much quicker now because they'll find the importance in it. And that's what I found in the fashion world. But yeah, I mean, I think in sport world, they just thought that a woman over a certain size maybe wasn't doing these activities, and which is a really misconception, to be honest, because, even if she wanted to drop a few sizes, well, how's she supposed to? What's she supposed to wear? It doesn't even make any sense. So I just think that it was something that wasn't on the top of their mind for whatever lame reason. And then now they're finding that, so many women of all shapes and sizes are out there doing the most incredible things. And it's time that you dress them because they have taken their money elsewhere thus far. And so I think everyone's really trying to get in on it really quickly. Yeah. And that's what I always say to women even when it comes to like, oh, I'm not sure if I can be a runner. And I'm like, please, please, please. I didn't think so either. But then come look at then I stood on the sideline of these races and all different. I've never seen such a diverse range of people, bodies, abilities, the whole thing. And you stand on the sideline of a race and you can't help but feel inspired. And then you also can't help but leave and feel like, okay, well, for sure, if I wanted to do this, I can do this.
I love that. Yeah. And that is so true, but especially as you mentioned, if you go to a race and you see all kinds of people crossing the finish line, every level, every age, every gender, everything. And it is one of the special things about our sport. But like you mentioned, if you can't find clothes that fit, that's going to take part of the enjoyment out. Yeah. Why would you want to kind of run in cotton clothes that are going to rub and make you, feel sore and uncomfortable? So thank you so much, just on a personal note, Candice, for actually just going out and doing this. And I love that you have, created Day One, and I'm looking forward to hearing what the listeners do think of some of your products once they check them out. So
thank you.
And you've taken it one step further. Your products are American made from something that is very close to my heart, recycled materials. Yes. Why did you decide to take that step? You've even included Pride Month products. You're really starting to help all different kinds of causes and things that are wrong in our world. So what made you decide to do all these things that, just maybe increase the cost for you or increase the headache, but they, are things that are important to our world? Why do that?
Well, I do think that, when you, not in a selfish way, but when you have your own brand, you have an opportunity to really finally be able to take a stand for the things that you believe in, or to lead the charge of things that you had wanted to see. And I just feel like so much of me is wrapped in this brand, and even so much so that my husband Matt is like, you have to remember it's for a very mass market too. Like maybe not everyone agrees with what you're saying or whatever. And I'm like, well, then maybe they don't need to buy this stuff. I don't know. But I just feel like I finally got the opportunity to share things that are important to me, that need light shed on them, causes that I'm passionate about, that are aligned with the brand and the messaging that I would, I want to work with more closely. And having the brand just gives me the opportunity to do the things that I love, and starting with making something for everyone. That's my most proud moment, is that actually being able to do what I had always hoped for a brand for clothing. And then all the other things are like cherries on top. It's no brainers for me, to, figure out who we can help along the way as well. Like, here's something that I think is really badass, and who else can benefit from this while we're on this journey. And so we launched our Can't Touch This leggings. We launched, with proceeds going to a non-for-profit girls charity called I Am That Girl, which encourages, girls and college age women to really be themselves, be authentically, unapologetically themselves. And it's sort of a safe space for them to thrive, set goals for their future. And, in a space where we're all being told to be someone else. So that was super important to me. The Pride shirt was incredibly important to me. I dedicated that one to my best friend. We're going to have more alignments like this in the future. And then obviously the biggest one too is the recycled aspect and the sustainability aspect, which I will be honest was, something I wasn't sure how important that was, to be honest, because it's not often a hot topic in fashion world, but it should be. It's definitely not really a topic in fitness world. And so it was something that was really foreign to me. However, my manufacturing partner, they're a US manufacturer called Zeal. When we aligned and started working together, that was a huge mission for them. So they actually give back a portion of their proceeds to 3 foundations that save the ocean. And so, there's just like goodness happening everywhere. It feels really great. And so they really expressed to me why their business model, why this was so important. For them. And really, so our business model is that we are an on-demand company, and we make your clothes per order. And so we're about a 10-day turnaround to make your items, which we're so happy everyone is very supportive and patient of. And that really makes it so that we do not waste any clothes, which the fashion industry is one of the worst offenders when it comes to waste. And we also, everything is digitally printed. So there's no there's no dye on your clothing, period. And there's no water dyeing processes. So we're the second worst offender, the fashion industry's second worst offender when it comes to water waste.
Really?
So we just eliminate that process entirely. And locally made, which feels really good. And so there's just so many things that I feel like are so great about the brand that I love sharing. And I hope that, there's women that are supporting our brand and love it as well. Just know that there's just so much love and attention and care that's put into every garment.
It sounds like it. And I can't wait to try it out myself. I'm definitely going to, make sure I get my hands on some, and absolutely love what you're doing. And even the fact that you just said right there that you're doing, maybe some of these things might not align with everyone. And if that's not the case, if they don't like it, then fine, go somewhere else. And I think that takes a lot of confidence, Candice, to actually say that and be confident enough in what you're doing. And I'm sure it's going to mean the people that do follow and do enjoy your clothes are going to be very loyal and are just going to, shout it from the rooftops because you are doing all the right things. So well
Thanks.
done with that.
I mean, I know that sounds like it sounds aggressive, but I'm also like, but who can't agree with like helping young girls and helping the LGBT community and helping the oceans? Like, there's a lot of things to be really excited about. And I just want everyone to know that like the brand and their clothing that they're wearing is doing more and being more and really just trying to be supportive. Just a really big, like a really positive community. That's always what I've been about. I don't want anyone to feel on the outside of anything. Like I've been that person, 18 years ago. And I was like, what is this subsection that I've been cast into? And can all my dreams come true if I'm in this like sub part of modeling, and you won't really let me feel like I'm really a real model. There's just so many things where it's like, oh, I don't really feel like I can be a real runner because I don't look like one. And then there's also clothes for me to be a real runner. It's like, no one should feel on the outside. No one should feel constantly in doubt of themselves or who they're supposed to be. Or if I change, then I can fit. And then I can do all the things I'm supposed to do. Then I can be confident. It's like, no. The time is now. Our life is now, and we can live it to the best that we want and be our best. It's just, here's the tools for it. And so I hope in some small way, day one can be along on that journey.
Yeah, I love that. And I know, okay, just to kind of wrap up here before we get on to the Running for Real 4, there's one more, well, there's actually 3 more things I wanted to ask you, but I'm going to kind of bundle them into one. So a lot of my listeners, will have either have been in your situation where, you aren't quote unquote the typical runner size, even though we've kind of discussed that there is no such thing, but maybe feel that way, not feel like a real runner. There is also that, association with weight loss. Maybe people will feel like if they start running, they have to lose weight. And if they don't, people are going to judge them. Some of my listeners may have gone down that path and tried to lose weight, maybe have lost that weight. You probably don't know this, but I'm also kind of known for losing my period for 9 years because my body was at a weight it wasn't, comfortable being at. But so people
I saw that on your Instagram.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Okay.
So, people will have lost this weight and maybe the body needs that extra weight to get back to where it wants to be, where it is comfortable at. But so we've got all kinds of shapes and sizes, but it comes down to people don't feel confident in who they are. They feel this pressure to look a certain way, not confident in their bodies at all, and struggle with this comparison trap. What would be your overall advice to runners listening who, for one reason or another, feel like they can't be confident in their bodies because they're not a real runner or they're not, the way they should be or where they want to be?
Well, I mean, my one tip is to just constantly remind yourself who you're doing it for, and it's for you. And so I find that, in the beginning of my training, I remember explaining my body nonstop because people would be like, I thought you're running a lot. How come you're not getting smaller? And I was thinking, how is this your approach? Truly? Like, how come you're not and then maybe that's because they don't know anything about running because they're not in the world. So they don't know to ask about well, how far, how many miles are you putting in? What's your pace like these days? They don't know to ask those questions. So they automatically go to exterior and body. And I guess they feel like that's just a neutral place to be when asking about your progress. And it's not. It's really, frankly, none of anyone's business. Mm-hmm. And really neither is pace or anything like that too, because I feel like that's another layer of things that make you feel inadequate too. It's you're not where you should be or something like that. But, and it used to drive me nuts. They would give me an up and down and be like, are you, you're training? It doesn't really you don't really look any different.
People actually say that?
Yes, they did. Wow. They did. Oh, you don't look different. And I'm like, well, but I feel great. So thanks for asking. And so I just quickly realized that one, running is not a quick fix to losing weight. In fact, I might have even gained weight during. Mm-hmm. And I think that you just need to constantly remind yourself why you're doing this. And the answer should always be for yourself. Mm-hmm. So I think that, you know what feels good for you. You know where your body should be. You know when you need to make some changes. You know what's best for you. And I think that we let so many things come in and muddy that up for us and distract us from the true and simple point of this is for me. All I do is for me. I am number one. I don't have to explain any of that to anyone. And yet we just ramble on with self-deprecation and jokes and, and then make all these plans to change and be different and lose weight really quickly to please somebody else and show them oh, look, I really am working out hard these days. I don't know. I just feel to make it very simple, just know that you're doing this for you and no one else. I'm just so done. I feel like explaining and apologizing for our bodies is it's exhausting. And so enough is enough. And so if someone wants to come to you with a conversation that leads with your body type or what your body's doing, you just quickly nip that in the bud and be like, this is not the direction. This is not the direction we're taking. So it really has nothing to do with the bigger picture. I did a whole post about this once where I was and it wasn't even when I was training for something. It was, I don't even remember what was going on in my life, but I remember so many people constantly saying, wow, you're so skinny. Wow, you're so skinny. And I would catch myself saying, thank you. And I was like, wait a second, I'm miserable right now. I think I was going through a breakup or something. Either way, like I had dropped a lot of weight very quickly. So I would definitely know I wasn't training. And I was like, it's so weird how that's how we lead our conversations, based on how we look, based on how our body has changed. You know, if you suddenly like gained a bunch of weight, I'm sure your friends would be like, are you okay? Is everything okay? And that could be the happiest time of your life. Like, it's just, we make so many so many assumptions, and we speak out of turn about what someone else's body's doing. And so I just say, to hell with all that. And you know what's best for you. You know why you're out there putting in the hard work. You know how strong you are. And, just don't let don't let the peanut gallery come in and affect that whatsoever.
I love that. Thank you so much for that advice. Very helpful, and just giving us a lot to think about and how we can apply it in our own lives. So thank you so much. We are just going to take a moment to thank our sponsors, and we'll be back with the Running for Real 4. By now, you've heard me talking about how much I love Body Health Perfect Amino for recovery. But did you know that if you try it and don't like it, you can get your money back? 100% of it. That's how confident they are in what they are making and how much it will help you to recover. And hopefully by now you know how much I appreciate it, especially as I'm trying to get back to running after having a baby, and let's just say things break down a little bit easier than they did before, so I definitely need them to help me stay healthy. Perfect Amino is made of the 8 essential amino acids our bodies need them to function. And this will help it kind of work as it should be. And as a vegan-sourced, non-GMO, gluten-free, soy and dairy-free product, you don't have to worry about food allergies affecting your ability to recover. So with marathon season fast approaching, give yourself the best chance of getting to that start line healthy as those intense workouts and accumulated miles begin to take their toll. Remember, you can use coupon code TINA10 to get 10% off at bodyhealth.com. What do you have to lose? This podcast is sponsored by Hoka One One. Hoka One One is a running shoe unlike any other, but you already knew that, right? The Bondi 6 is a running shoe with marshmallow soft cushion and marshmallow lightweight. In the 6th edition, the Bondi has a refined Meta Rocker technology to give you a smoother, more balanced ride. It is shockingly lightweight for how much cushion it packs, and the Bondi 6 will give you maximum comfort in every mile. The Bondi 6 was one of the first shoes Hoka One One ever created, and it's become a fan favorite for good reason. You'll get it when you try it. Just try it on today and experience the sweetest cushion. Get yours today using promo code RUNNINGFORREAL at hokaoneone.com. That's HOKAONEONE.com/runningforreal with the number 4 to get free expedited shipping and become part of the family. It's time to fly. All right, Candice, just 4 more questions with you, starting with a bit of a unique one. Tell us about a photo. You maybe have some of these, maybe airbrushing is involved, or maybe it's just a photo on your social media that shows something that's not quite what it seems. Maybe it shows a happy moment, but behind the scenes you were, struggling with something. Tell us about something that isn't what it seems.
Right. Well, I would say one of my, I guess my most human and oddly favorite photos, and it does pertain to running. And it's not that I'm definitely putting on a face that I'm not hiding anything, that's for sure. But there's a photo of me from the Boston Marathon, and I'm stopped and I'm hysterically crying. I'm in hysterics, and I'm like wiping tears away, and you can see the sit-go sign in the distance. What I love so much about that photo, I mean, it's awful. It's an awful photo. It's like an ugly cry face because I was going for it. But what do you think when you look at it? You think like she's in a lot of pain. She's quitting. She's unhappy. But the truth of the matter is I saw the sit-go sign in the distance, and I knew I was exactly 1 mile away from the finish line of the biggest race I've ever run in my life. So I just stopped and cried. I had to, because otherwise I was going to be hysterically crying through the finish line, and I didn't want to do that. And I knew that I wanted to have a strong finish. And that's one of my favorite things, is like doing the dash to the finish line, and where you just feel so powerful and victorious. And so I needed to stop, and I fully stopped. Like, it wasn't even like I was walking and crying. I just stopped. My husband was on the sideline and I was like, I really just have to like cry this out for a second so that I can just release it. Cause I'm holding on to it and it's making me like choke up a little bit. And I feel like my breathing's a little screwed up. And so I just like broke down, and of course he's taking pictures, which at the time you're like, come on. And then I finished my race. So I would say, yeah, that's one of my favorites.
That's a good one. And well done for like recognizing that that's what you needed. I'm not sure I would have been able to do that. I feel like I would have just been like, no. And then, it would have all come melting down at the finish line. So
I know.
Well done for recognizing
I start to like, because I do get very emotional, and mostly when I'm very happy or proud, I cry a lot. Mm-hmm. And so it was sitting in my throat and I was feeling so uncomfortable. So I was like, well, here we go. Let's just release.
Yeah, good idea. What about, this might be the same thing. So if you want to include this, you can. What about a running for real moment? Something that only runners will understand.
Oh God. Wait, is this where we should talk about poop? No.
That's where it does come up. Yep.
Running for real moment. Well, it does go back to the tears too. Like I get so emotional in races, and I don't know. I mean, it probably like obviously slows me down, and it's to my own detriment when it comes to like timing, but I get so overwhelmed with emotion, and not in a painful way, not in a, I'm crying because I hate every moment of this. Like I'm usually quite emotional and tearful because I cannot believe that I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. Like still to this day for every race, I'm like, I cannot believe I did this. Like, look how far I've come. And maybe it's the wrong time to start having that like flashback of like, wow. But, you just get really impressed. Like 2 years ago I was immobile I went to a few classes here and there. And like, now I'm like, running races on a regular basis. I just never thought that was my life. And so sometimes it's really nice to, it's one of those like look back to see how far you've come moments. And maybe I shouldn't do it in races, but it just presents itself. And there's a lot of tears. I cry a lot.
There's nothing wrong with that. I definitely cry a lot too. What about a high moment for you?
High moment is the marathons. I mean, in 2017, I ran 2 marathons. I ran Boston and New York City, and those, I never expected to run that distance in my entire life. The half marathons were cool. Of course, as soon as you run a half marathon, everyone's like, well, when are you going to run the full one? And my answer was never. I just didn't crave running that distance whatsoever. And already the 13 is still a feat for me to this day. And I still haven't gotten that one like totally conquered the way I want to. And I just felt like if a 26.2 was going to come, it was going to come way down the line. Like I am way too amateur for this. And I just can't, I don't know. I don't see why I would want to do that. I don't see why I would sign up or how I could actually do this. And 2 opportunities presented themselves. And obviously, I don't say no. So, and they happen for a reason. I mean, the Boston Marathon is the day I told myself I was never going to doubt myself again. I was never going to say I can't. It's also, fully where day one, came to life and was born. Yeah. The New York Marathon was, the most incredible. I've been on the sidelines of that race for years, and that feels great. But I mean, being in it makes a huge difference. My hometown. And, they're just 2 moments that I just are frozen in time for me. Like that was literally my marathon year, 2017 marathon year. And who knows if I'll ever revisit them or a marathon in general. I just feel like they were so special, and they are encapsulated in this 12 months of time, and they were really special.
Oh, that's so cool. Thank you so much for sharing those as well. All right. And finally, what do you tell yourself on the start line of a race?
Yeah, I always, in some way, shape, or form, I always tell myself, you got this. I usually have it written. I write it on my hand. It's on my shoelace. Like, I always do say over and over, you got this, you got this. And I also tell myself, you can do this. Like I always just say, how to run. And that's really all it boils down to. It's like, how to run, that you can do this. So don't freak out. And that's what I always try to tell friends too. It's like, look, guys, we can put one foot in front of the other. We know how to do that. It's all the other stuff that we get tripped up by, but we can do this.
And you've taken it one step further to people can get, it's PS, you got this, right? Yes. One of the kind of branches, I guess, of your products, which I absolutely love. So to ramp up with that, tell us where people can find out more about you, where they can find day one products. Tell us more to keep up with you in the future.
Okay, so grab a pen and paper, everyone.
I will put links in the show notes.
I'm Candice Huffine. So on social media, Candice Huffine. I didn't get a chance to really dive into Project Start, but that is a viral community I built online when I started running, because I really wanted to shed light on the beginners, because I felt like similarly to how we were saying that there's a certain kind of runner that's always portrayed, a certain size runner, a certain ability of a runner, basically meaning they're just like beasts, like in the most awesome way, but they're just like professional from the start. And that's something I couldn't relate to. And so I wanted to really shed light on what it's like to start your journey and how it feels, and know that you're not alone. And so I started this community called Project Start. And so on Instagram, that's PS You Got This. And then the brand is Day One, WON. So online we are day-one.com, and on Instagram, Your Day One. And so that should be my face in a lot of different places. All
over the place. Well, Candice, thank you so much. This has been so inspirational. I have absolutely loved this chat and loved getting to know you. And I know what you're saying is going to go straight to the heart of my audience. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure being here.
She is awesome, right? Not what I would expect from a model, and actually not what I would expect the modeling industry to be like either, which is a good thing, I guess, right? Now, I'm about to try my new Day One clothes, and I look forward to hearing what you think of them too once you give them a try. So be sure to go check out day-one.com to find out more. And you can also find links to everything we talked about today in the show notes at tinamuir.com/episode 77. Now, I mentioned Patreon to you earlier, and as you know, this podcast is 100% free, as is every single Instagram post I share, every email respond I send to you, every blog post, every post I hopefully inspire you to be better. Well, Patreon is just a way you can show your thanks to me and allow me to keep giving you all this helpful information and realness by being paid for my time, just a small amount of your money. Now, I know obviously we all have things that we have to spend our money on, and it can be difficult to keep adding things to the pile, but even the tiniest amount can make a huge difference. You know, even the cost of a coffee per month can make a huge difference to me, as it all just compiles on one another. So you may think, well, what's my support going to make a difference? But it really does. It all adds up and it all makes a difference. So you can find out more at patreon.com/running for real. That's the number 4, running for real. And I just want to say thank you so much in advance to anyone who does do this, or thank you to anyone who already has. I really, really appreciate it. Now, next week we have Eric Schranz on the show, who is the host of Ultra Runner podcast, and he's also a dad. Now, Eric is here to talk about this amazing thing his daughter did a few months ago that's truly going to warm your heart, regardless of whether you're a parent or not, or even if you want kids or not. So tune in next week to hear what that story is and to hear more about Eric and what he's been up to since I last talked to him. So until then, have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the Running for Real podcast. Be sure to check out tinamuir.com for show notes and even more helpful running information.